Chapter 395. As soon as Olivia heard his question, she did not answer, but she looked at Shawn with an awkward expression on her face. She did not dare to say that she had no boyfriend because she was Shawn's lover. However, she did not tell any outsiders that she was Shawn's lover. After all, Shawn had a family of his own. She did not want to ruin or break his family apart. If that was the case, and if she said that she was his lover, then she would definitely cause more trouble for him. If that happened, she would only be making things difficult for herself. Unexpectedly, Shawn was actually very straightforward at this time. He did not bother to hide the truth, and he simply smiled before he told Alan, "Brother Alan, let me tell you the truth. Olivia is actually my lover. However, I hope you'll keep this to yourself and not tell anyone else about this." Alan felt very regretful at this time. He initially thought that Olivia was Shawn's niece. Who would have known that it was just a cover-up and she was in fact just his lover? Even though he was interested in Olivia, he would not dare to steal Shawn's woman. Therefore, he could only dispel all these thoughts in his heart. Shawn naturally saw the look of greed in his eyes, and he smiled to himself as he continued chatting with Alan. At this time, Shawn deliberately asked Alan, "By the way, Brother Alan, how has your father's health been recently?" Alan sighed before he said, "Not that good. The old man had partied too much when he was younger, and he's paying the price for his actions now. Therefore, his health is suffering a lot now." Shawn asked again, "I heard that the old man used to have a lot of romantic relationships in the past." "Of course he had plenty of them," Alan replied helplessly. "Don't you know that my father was just like me? He was very handsome and young back then, and he would always coax and spend the night with all sorts of women whenever he went out to buy medicinal herbs and medicine outside. He would always find the opportunity to sleep around whenever he could do so. As far as I know, he had more than 30 lovers in the past. That's even more than I have." "Wow," Shawn exclaimed immediately. "Your father was really such a womanizer when he was young?" Alan nodded before he said in a helpless manner, "Otherwise, how else would I have a half-brother who is an illegitimate child? In fact, my father has several other illegitimate children out there, but they're all daughters. When my grandfather found out that my father had an illegitimate son out there, he insisted on bringing him back to the Baker family home because he said that a son of the Baker family should not be left to suffer outside." After that, Alan continued explaining, "I'm not the only one who doesn't want to look at this bastard child. My father doesn't even want to see him at all. However, there's nothing else we can do. Since he has already recognized his ancestors, and since my grandfather was the one who invited him into the Baker family, we have no choice but to keep him with us. He usually does some menial tasks for us." Shawn had always known that the Baker family had 2 sons. The eldest son was none other than Alan Baker, while the younger son was the illegitimate child, Burton Baker. Burton was a result of his father's romantic relationship with one of his lovers a very long time ago. However, even though the Baker family had already taken him into their own home, no one knew who he was and not many people had seen him before. It seemed as though Burton really grew up in a very tough and miserable environment. At this time, Shawn suddenly asked out of curiosity, "By the way, Brother Alan, since your father used to be a womanizer in the past, he must have an extraordinary ability in that area. Did he use any secret tricks or medicine?" Alan nodded before he smiled and said, "How did you know?" "My father really had a secret. He accidentally stumbled upon it when he was out on a trip when he was much younger. The medicine apparently works to strengthen and nourish the kidneys, thus greatly improving a man's ability to perform in that area." "Seriously?" Shawn asked in surprise. "Then, do you still have that recipe?" Alan said, "What should I say about this medicine? When he was younger, my dad used it for about 20 to 30 years. It seems to be really useful. I heard that my father could actually perform more than 10 times in a single night when he was out buying medicinal herbs and ingredients in the past. People even gave him the nickname Baker 15 times. Speaking of this, Alan sighed as he said, I was initially thinking of utilizing this prescription for mass production later. However, after analyzing the components of the medication, the researcher found out that this medicine causes kidney and liver toxicity. Just look at my old man. He's only in his early 60s, but his livers and kidneys are almost completely exhausted. The doctor said that he'll only be able to live for another 2 to 3 years at most.